So this is going to be your second sampling day, our third meeting day, our fourth meeting day.
Is it third sampling?
I would say third.
It's third.
Third sampling. Yep. The second one was
No.
last time. I was feeling kind of still unwell. That was number 2.
That's right, this will be the third sampling.
Okay. All right.
Any comments, questions, or whatever?
None at this time.
All right, then let's go for it.
Okay. So
In your experience, Ed, the first beat is what?
first beat. So I find that it helps me to talk about what I was doing.
That's fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So I was on the phone with my brother, and we happened to have been talking about the coronavirus. I know. And he works around elderly people, so he was explaining the panic at work because he actually has the flu.
Oh.
And right at the time that the beep went off, it was on the word place. He said workplace, and it was on the word place. And I was visually, like the wispy light thing that we were talking about before.
The which, I'm sorry?
The wispy light thing
Uh-huh.
that we were talking about before. I was visually seeing in his workplace, I was watching it play out in panic over the illness and the elderly patients that they have to care for. And like I don't actually know what any of those people look like over there. I just kind of like in my visual experience, I assign to the person sort of a face, and I just imagine them just moving around in chaos because of whatever it is my brother is telling me. in
Okay.
the panic.
So what exactly do you see?
It looks like I'm watching a movie in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like if you were to see a scene in like one of those ER movies, and like all like an influx of all these ill people are coming and everyone's going crazy. Like that's the exact scene I'm seeing in my head.
So you see an emergency room kind of scene?
Yeah, like a
And-
nurse's station, and then you got all these nurses who are kind of fumbling around, like freaking out as he's talking about panic.
Okay.
And that's kind of like what I'm visually seeing in my head.
And when you say all these nurses, do you mean 2 nurses or 20 nurses or 200 nurses? Or
I
what?
like focus on 2 or 3, but in the background there's like 10.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of nurses, 2 or 3 of which are
They're
more
along the
prominent.
foreground, and then there's this
Okay.
background.
And then
scene
there's
too.
patients as well?
Yeah, they're in their rooms. But
And do you see them or do you?
no, I just see the nurses hub in my visual representation of what he's saying, of the nurses being in panic, with 3 in the foreground and a bunch in the background.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what you see,
Mhm.
actually, in your experience, is the nurses station of an elderly care facility? Is that right?
Yeah.
And what you know is that there are rooms around there, but you don't
Yeah.
see them?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these nurses are wispy, and I want to
Yeah.
make sure I understand what that means without reference to what, so let's pretend like we'd never seen that other one before.
Yeah.
So what exactly do you see in this
So
one?
when I say the word wispy, I'm trying to be more literal,
Okay,
is because I don't necessarily see a full detailed human person in my head, I see only the details I want to see. So whatever
Fair
detail
enough.
I'm not looking at, it's almost like it represents itself to me as, like I kind of described last time, when you take a picture of somebody moving and then they have that trail of light, that's kind of like what it looks like to me when I'm not 100% focused on whatever detail I'm trying to look at.
so I'm accepting that that's probably true.
Okay.
But let's set it aside
Okay.
regardless.
All
So
right.
what I'm interested in is what you see.
Mhm.
And if what you see,
Mhm.
well, what you see might very well conform to what you just said. I'm not denying your ability to characterize your stuff, but I want to focus in on what you see.
Okay.
So so far I'm understanding there's 3 nurses in the front and some more in the back.
Yeah.
And there's something that you're using the term wispy, which I don't yet understand.
Okay.
So tell me again exactly what you see.
Okay, so it's not a real person. I'm making the person up in my head.
Okay, fair enough.
So
And so what do you see when you make this person up?
I see the scrubs, I see the uniform of the person. When I'm focused on the foreground of my representation, I see the scrubs of the nurses. The color is tie-dye.
Okay.
And I see the general color of the skin and not really any facial features, not really hair, and it's almost kind of like they're translucent. That's what I mean by wispy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't mean moving back and forth wispy? You
Sort
mean,
of, yeah. I
yeah.
get this, you know, they're not, the background's more of the wispy vibe that I'm trying to discuss, because it's the background. I'm not focused on any details in the background. It feels like they're more of the wispies, kind of, I'm trying to find a better word. They're not stable structures. They're not stable representations. There's representations happening, but they're not detail, or they're not in my detail, they're not in my foreground, my present foreground. So I still represent something there as moving and as part of the scene, and I see it as, I describe it as wispy because it's, and I guess what I mean by wispy is more, it's not real, but I could make it real if I focused on it.
Okay.
Kind of.
So first off, we're not going to hold you to the word
Okay.
wispy.
All right.
So
Yeah.
we don't care whether wispy turns out to be the right word or the wrong word.
Okay.
We assume that everything that you are going to say to us, which is probably true for what we say to you as well, is like a first draft of what it is that you're trying to convey.
Okay.
And the first draft includes the word wispy, but it could be that some subsequent draft will say, well, wispy, we should just forget about that word, or maybe we should refine that word, or maybe we should just define that word.
Yeah.
Any one of those things is okay with us. Our object is to see in our mind's eye the same thing as you see in your mind's eye as best we can, which is obviously not perfect,
Yeah.
but we can do a pretty good job of it. And so what I've got so far, let's start with the front end of this, or the foregroundy part of this experience, is that there are three or so, two or three, I guess, nurses that I see in tie-dyed scrubs, and the tie-dyed scrubs seem sort of clear to me. And then the faces and the arms and the hair, I guess, seems sort of indeterminate in
Yeah.
some way to me. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Translucent, like they're not strong details.
And by translucent, do you mean I can see through them?
Yeah, yeah. Like
So I can-
it's not 100% solid. And I think that's what I'm saying when I say wispy as well. Because wispy I don't feel is strong. It's not a strong detail.
Okay. And so as far as the hair is concerned, for
Yes.
example,
Yeah.
do you see something which is sort of hair-like?
Like a
but
shape of hair.
you see the shape
But
of
I
hair,
don't
but not
like
the color?
outline, but not the color. I don't see the individual strain. Like I could look at your hairs and I can see the dimension, the color. I don't see that in my visual.
And yet you see something which is hair shaped like, or something like that. Is that right?
And that's why I say the word light, because they are represented to me in some kind of light, literal light. And and they're also, but they're not strong representations. Like I see you, I know that light's bouncing off of you guys, and I'm seeing you, but I'm also seeing your detail as a human person. But in my mind, it's just this translucent light that I am focused on making into a shape so I can have a scene play in my head.
And I have made the scrubs
Yes.
real. Obviously, the whole thing is imaginary,
Yeah.
but I've made the scrubs appear real. Is that right?
And solid, not translucent?
I guess it would
Scrubs.
be more solid than the actual body of the person I'm imagining. Yeah. And I think I think because I didn't really analyze it at the time of the beat, but when I say tie-dye, it's because I know that nurses all wear different colors, and so I kind of just slapped it all together, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe subconsciously.
So this is the kind of thing that is an explanatory deal, and it might very well be true, and it might not be true, and we don't take an opinion about that. What we're trying to get at is what your actual experience is. And so for whatever reason, which may be because you're slapping together different colored uniforms or whatever,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, I see apparently at this particular moment
Yeah.
some tie-dyed-ish looking uniforms, which seem pretty real to me. I know they're imaginary, but
Right.
they seem real by comparison to the more translucent-y, wispy, not so well-defined
Human
facial characteristics and hairy
shape.
characteristics.
It's just the outline.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
And there are 2 or 3 of them,
Mm.
and is the 2 or 3-ness indeterminate, or is that we just can't remember? I can't remember right now.
So there's one that is most prominent. The one is like the head nurse,
Okay,
the charge nurse, and then there's the 2 other. They're also the 2 other ones I'm focused on, but they're the least prominent out of the one. And then there's just that background of whatever 10 nurses or so, I don't know, just wisping around back there.
okay.
Yeah.
And is the head nurse, the charge nurse,
Yes.
in the center of your scene?
Yeah. She's
And-
the focus of the scene.
And is she equally transparent, wispy, whatever, than the other 2 foreground nurses?
So it's almost like the foreground is more color oriented, and then the background is just your black and white. It's out of focus, and I don't see so much color. Still
Okay.
wispy, but the light is not colorful.
Mm.
But the foreground of what I'm looking at is colorful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there nurses in the foreground also moving, or is the moving in the back?
Yeah, the foreground and background is moving.
Okay. And
And sometimes when you do moving, we go like this. Are they just moving in a kind of nonsense back and forth, or is
Yeah.
it like they're grabbing charts and it's like meaningful
No, it's
movement?
nonsense moving.
It's true
just-
wispy kind
yeah.
of like reeds
Yeah.
in the wind or something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I could focus on it and create a real scene where I'm seeing that. But
Mhm.
in that particular moment, it was just this like quick reenactment. As I'm hearing his words, I am visualizing what I imagine to be occurring
Mhm.
in that scene that he's describing.
and the foregroundy 3 nurses,
Yes,
are they, how are they oriented? Are they looking at you or looking at each other or laying
they're all
down? Or-
facing towards me, but not looking at me, kind of thing. Like I am not a factor.
So you're not a part of this scene?
No, I am just kind of like.
But they're
God's
looking in
eye.
your direction, or looking in the
Mhm.
direction of the camera that's taking this picture?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And are they in motion as well?
Everything's in motion.
Everything is, and by in motion, as Alec was describing, sort of a
Chaotic,
whiskey,
nonsensical.
but not a meaningful, like, you gotta do
Right,
this, here,
yeah,
take that,
yeah.
not that kind of.
No, there's no assigned task. It's just straight up
Just
random
whisper.
nonsense. Yeah,
Okay.
chaos almost.
Alright.
Yeah.
So, your brother
Mhm.
is telling you about his workplace. I'm
Yes.
recapping
Yep,
it,
yep,
see
yep.
whether I got it straight.
Okay.
Your brother is talking about coronavirus in the workplace and everybody is concerned. He's saying something about the workplace and the beep catches the place of workplace.
Yes.
And while he is saying that, you are illustrating that in your imagination
Yes.
with these 3 colorful nurses in the foreground and 10 or so black and white nurses in the background.
Mhm.
And you said somewhere along the line that you could see their skin color. Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, it's a translucent color, but like I couldn't say what ethnicity. I could just say that there's a translucent.
Skinny stuff,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I don't assign any real detail unless I hyper focus on it. It was just a general picture of what I imagine to be occurring as I'm listening to my brother's story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And does this scene have borders or edges or whatever, or you just look like you're looking into the room and things disappear off to the side?
Yeah, it's as if I am, kind of like what you described, I am a camera recording a scene in a movie, and I'm watching the chaos at the nurse's station when the coronavirus outbreak occurs.
Okay.
It's kind of what's happening in there.
And, excuse me, is anything else in your experience at this particular moment?
Happen to be driving at the same time, so I'm simultaneously driving and having this visual experience and talking to my brother.
And is the driving in your experience at all? And let's assume that it's at least possible to drive on autopilot, or it's possible to be watching the red Buick in front of me or whatever. Either one of those would be
I'm
fine.
not focused on the details around me. I am probably in some sense autopilot. Muscle memory, whatever, like my body knows what it's doing. I understand what red means, I understand what green means, and I will respond to those things in this, as I'm going through this mental process and conversation. Everything's happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And the
And
driving itself is just nonsense also, I guess, in a way. It's just, I guess physically I'm on autopilot.
So I'm driving skillfully,
Yes.
but not experientially. It's not
Yeah,
like
I'm not experiencing the driving.
I'm having obviously visual
Yeah.
experiences in one way, in one definition of the word experience. I'm obviously experiencing the road in front of me and the cars or whatever. I'm
Right.
adjusting and doing whatever it is that I have to do. But as far as what we're calling the pristine before the footlights of consciousness
Yeah.
experience, there's none of that out there. What I'm seeing in my experience is this chaotic
Visualization. Yeah.
nurse's station.
It's almost like my visualization is my experience's foreground and the driving is my background. Like that's, if I kind of apply that to what's happening inside of me.
So now we've used background in two different ways.
Yes.
So we've got to make sure that I understand about that.
Okay.
There's the directly before the footlights of experience background, and those are nurses.
Yeah.
And then there's the contextual background or whatever, the physical background. Well, I'm driving, but I'm not really, I'm understanding you to be saying, well, it's not like they're in the visual background.
Right.
They're in the, obviously I'm attending to them because I got here without running into anybody background.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
But I'm good.
then I think I'm good.
Okay.
And you're doing great.
Yeah.
All right. So beep
Beep
number
number
2.
two.
So I was sitting on the couch and I was watching TV, and I was watching a show called Paranormal Caught on Camera, and a person was discussing their paranormal experience, and they said the sentence, "That happened to me," the beep happened, it happened, and as the beep happened, I was leaning back into the couch and I was experiencing relaxation and thinking, oh wow, this is such a nice feeling to lean into a couch, because I never do that as a mom. And then I also at the same time was thinking about the experience of having a paranormal experience. And I feel like those weren't words playing out necessarily. It's almost like they were thought feelings, and then the words kind of just echoed after the thought feelings. And that is that, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So several things potentially
Mhm.
in experience here. The show's on,
Yeah.
and I'm watching that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in your direct experience at the moment, or?
Yeah.
So I'm still following along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I'm very much watching this episode.
Okay. So it's not like it's not like the driving, where that's kind of becoming automatic, and I'm.
Right.
Okay.
This is my foreground, I would say.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the couch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning back. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm noticing that.
Mm-hmm.
And just so we've done the timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just to be clear about that,
Yeah.
is it the case that I'm watching TV and I lean back and I'm feeling that and I'm noticing that,
Mm-hmm.
and the beep interrupts my couchy experience, or I'm watching TV and the beep goes off, and as I'm looking back I realize, oh god, it's pretty nice to be sitting on this couch.
The beep interrupts my relaxation.
Okay, so I am noticing already the relaxation and the beep interrupts that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow I'm thinking about having a paranormal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So of those, of the couch and the watching TV and my own commentary about paranormal experiences, which of those is most salient to you at the...
And I think there's one more actually that you're leaving out there, and that is that she's perhaps contemplating how nice it is to have a couch.
Yeah, I was kind of grouping that into the couch.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right, that.
I would say the most salient would be my feeling of relaxation in the couch. And then the second close prominent, it was not so far away.
Mm-hmm.
It's still foreground, but just still a little notch under the comfort is my focus on the episode itself, on
Okay.
Paranormal Activity.
So mostly I'm feeling relaxed.
Yes.
And then secondarily watching TV.
Yes.
And then is there also separately some contemplation about, God, it's nice to,
Mm-hmm. So
to
as
relax
I'm,
on the couch?
yes.
And then the thought about paranormal experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was almost like all of that was happening at one time
Mm-hmm.
on top of each other. And then it's almost like I felt, the second I leaned back and I felt the relaxation as I'm also watching the show,
Uh-huh.
I had this instant feeling of relaxation, and on top of it, the same commentary of, oh wow, I wonder what I would do if I had a paranormal experience, as they show here on this TV.
And so those things are simultaneously,
Mhm.
I'm watching the show, I'm feeling relaxed, and I'm wondering about if I had a paranormal experience.
Yes.
Those three things are simultaneously caught
At the
by the beep?
Yeah.
And is there also a thought about how nice it is to be relaxing in the couch, or is that kind of...
So it's funny, that thought came, and it wasn't actually a thought, I actually said it out loud to somebody that was nearby. And then I relaxed into that more, kind of. And so I was relaxed and had the thought of that, like the thought of I said it,
Uh-huh.
and it was still with me, that I was
Uh-huh.
feeling that relaxation. And then thinking of the episode, and then the beep
Okay.
happened as I was watching.
So let me see if I got that. So
Okay.
I'm watching
Alright.
the show, I'm feeling relaxed. I say to somebody,
I'm
this is
feeling-
really nice to relax, but
Yes.
that's out here sometime before
Yes.
the beep.
Yes.
But at the beep, I still feel relaxed.
Still feel that feeling of ultimate relaxation and kind of reveling in that. And then
Uh-huh.
on top of feeling relaxed, I'm also thinking about the paranormal
experiences.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's a good enough foundation.
Okay.
So let's talk about the feeling relaxed.
Okay.
What exactly is that experience?
It was as if my body finally was able to feel tired. I was allowed to feel tired. Yeah, that was the feeling I got.
So is there a feeling in my body at this moment?
Yeah, it was a feeling of like a release of tension.
Mm-hmm.
Like tension in not in any one particular part of my body, just in a general sense, that I was able to really let myself just be a couch potato for a minute.
Mm-hmm. So relaxed is like a bodily, I feel this lack of tension.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say it's kind of a general feeling, do you mean like all over, or it's just not even really clear where it is, or something
It
else?
feels all over.
Okay, like head to toe all over?
Mm-hmm. I guess more prominently, if I had to highlight a specific area, it would be like my upper body mostly feels it first.
Okay. And I don't particularly care if
Yeah.
I don't want you to highlight an area unless
Mm-hmm.
at that moment in your experience it was a little more prominent in my upper body.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just as well to say, oh, it's kind of all over,
Yeah.
not really specific.
I would say, I would say that the relaxation was more noticed upper body and then eventually noticed all throughout. So in my process of relaxation, there was this like release of my upper body, and then I
Mhm.
could feel the release of my lower body, and eventually it was just all around.
Mm-hmm. And at the moment of the beep, is it?
I was completely relaxed.
It's all around.
Yeah.
So it
all
had
around.
started with my upper body,
Right.
and then it seems to have spread. But now at the moment of the beep,
I'm all around relaxed.
I'm all around relaxed. And relaxed is this bodily lack of tension.
Yes. Like there is a sense of feeling as if my muscles are allowed to be tired. Like I'm giving myself permission to be tired. Because normally I'm busy, and I need to be a little bit on the hyper side, you know?
Yeah.
But it was just in that moment I felt like, okay, body, you could be tired. You're allowed to be tired for 5 minutes.
And is that, so you've said a few things like that, like it's
Yeah.
as if I can finally give in, be tired, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that metaphorical, or in my experience there's something about I'm allowing this, or or is that just context, because I don't do this often and now I'm really pretty deeply relaxed?
I think well,
So the question is this the feeling of relaxed, which would be a bodily relaxation, or is it a feeling of allowed to relax? So the question is whether the allowed is
Right.
sort of the context which allows my body to do this, but at the moment I'm just feeling my body do it, or is the allowedness in experience?
I would say that it's more along the lines of being allowed to relax. Not so much I'm tired, like I could fall asleep, like maybe I could if I really tried, but that yes, I was giving myself permission to relax, yeah. To completely relax in a way that came off as maybe I'm tired.
And is the giving myself, so I still want to understand
Yeah.
kind of the same question here, is the giving myself permission,
Mhm.
is that, again, context, and I just feel the result of that, which is bodily relaxation, or I feel my experiences of giving myself permission,
I
and that's...
literally feel like I'm permitting myself to do
Mhm.
this. I have given myself permission in that moment to be relaxed. And I could,
And the permitting or the
Yeah.
allowing is experienced.
yes.
So I think these are great questions, and I want to make sure that I understand the answers to them, because the question, I guess, is sort of like, is this like the driving thing, where I'm driving and I'm obviously experiencing the driving, but I'm not experiencing it in the same way. So in this sense, it's like I'm experiencing the relaxation, and am I also experiencing the allowing, or is the allowing sort of like a driving thing? I have skillfully taken advantage of this time to become relaxed, but now I'm just feeling relaxed.
Mhm. I would say that I'm directly experiencing the relaxed feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and I am aware that there is something in me, part of me, well, it is me, giving myself permission to physically relax.
So that is somehow present
That is
before
a
the footlights of
present-
my consciousness.
Yeah, and when I said the statement, this was before when I said the statement, oh, it's so nice, it was almost like that statement was the
Mhm.
allowingness of it. Like I could do this I could sit here and do this and do nothing and feel relaxed and not,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that was my way of justifying it. I don't know.
So that's the distinction that we're
Yeah.
trying to make here,
Okay.
whether I have given myself permission out here somewhere, if this
Yeah.
is the beep, I've given myself permission, and now I'm just feeling relaxed.
Yeah.
Or whether I'm still in my direct experience right
I
here,
would say
right
I'm still in the
I'm
direct
still
experience of
permitting myself.
permitting myself.
now. Okay,
Because any moment I might have to get back up and get back on the stage of life, you know?
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
And how is the permitting piece present to you, if you can say?
It's like, how is the permitting piece present to me?
Like, in terms of phenomena, like how, right, is it experienced? I get the gist, and I get that this is like a mom thing and I don't do this and all that.
Yeah.
But is it like I'm saying to myself, I haven't heard you say that, but like I could be saying to myself, oh, you could do this. Or I could be kind of in this meta-cognitive place where I'm noticing I'm doing this and I can do this, or something just the sensation is somehow a permitted sensation.
I see it as I am aware of the feeling of relaxation, and I'm allowing the feeling to occur.
So I feel it,
Yeah.
and experientially I'm allowing
I'm
it,
allowing
I'm permitting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so is
Yeah.
that like a meta thing, or is that just like a...
I would say it falls more along the lines of I'm trying to kind of find a better way to break it down. But, okay.
So I would say maybe we've struggled down this path
Yeah.
far enough.
Yeah.
And I think we have explored some stuff, and we probably haven't figured it out, and you probably weren't paying adequate attention to this at the moment of the beep, and so we probably can't get any farther.
Yeah.
And if we have this kind of experience on subsequent days, then this experience we will have profited from this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're,
Yeah.
All
Do
right.
you want to move beeps or just talk more about this?
let's go on to
Yeah.
with
The
Beep
thought.
three?
the thought
Oh,
about.
the thought.
Well, let's talk about the thought, because I understand this is going on, the relaxation thing. I'm watching the TV show, and there's a thought about if I had paranormal
Yes.
experiences, or...
Yeah, that
And so, what exactly do you mean when you say I'm thinking about?
So the story on the TV was about an individual who had experienced something extremely paranormal. Couldn't explain it in any other way. And as I'm understanding that story, it is occurring to me that there are people in this world who have those sort of experiences, and that the level of confusion or fear that would go into something like that happening, like, I don't know, a door unnaturally swinging back and forth, that's very scary, you know? And I was feeling maybe spooked but intrigued. And so on top of feeling relaxed and having that experience and then hearing that happen on the TV, I was having, and it was at that moment of beep, I was feeling also intrigued in the thought of, you know, does this really happen to people? Do people really experience these odd activities? Wherever they are, in their workplace or at home or whatever.
And I want to say that the first time around of this, you called these like thought feelings?
Yeah, so I was trying to differentiate between hearing my voice and then feeling what I'm feeling first. It's almost like I would have the feeling, but it's also a thought. The feeling is the thought, but it's not a thought in terms of there's a whole narration. I feel like the words, the dialogue, is the echo of that feeling and thought. Like you have this whole feeling, this big giant feeling, and you then you intellectualize it with your wondering, oh, what is this? And then you get this whole dialogue. And my dialogue is my voice, and I hear those questions and whatever that is, and I feel like that is my echo of the thought feelings. That makes sense.
Okay.
The thought feeling is, like, when you define thought, you hear a thought as it's an intellectual bubble over your head with, you know, words maybe. Maybe for some people that is the most common definition, I don't know. In my case, I see the thought as the arising of a feeling that I focus on and then and I intellectualize it with words.
Okay. So that is sort of a process.
It is a process.
That is
yes,
extended over time?
I would say it's
mark?
instant. I would say it is not something that I have to sit down and go through like this. I feel like it is an instant thing. I feel like the second I have a feeling, I'm already intellectualizing it within the same frame of seconds.
So at the moment of this beep,
Yeah.
is there a feeling and an intellectual thinky component? Both of those are present simultaneously?
Yes.
And maybe the
things
feeling
layered.
came first if this theory is accurate, but they're both there.
Right. They're all, I mean, I would say that the thought and feeling definitely happens first, but it's not first in that now next literally we have this whole intellectual process. It's almost like it's a chain reaction, but it's happening together.
Okay.
The chain reaction.
The thought and the thought.
The thought,
part,
feeling,
the feeling
slash
part.
intellectualizing the thought and feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
It's layered, very layered process.
Okay.
It feels like. Because then I feel like I would always have to stop and do this if I had to process every thought and feeling. I feel like I'm doing it as it's arising.
Yes, and I don't mean to imply that this is real extended, like 30 seconds long,
Okay.
but right, like we're gonna try to be very precise about
Okay.
the moment. So
Okay.
even if this is instantaneous, maybe it's
Yeah.
just a feeling now, but it sounds like
Mhm.
there's more than just a feeling at the moment
Yes.
of this beep.
Oh, at the moment of the beep, yes, the whole layer, the whole process of the layer has been opened, I guess.
Okay.
To say, but it's, yeah.
So there's a emotional aspect,
Mhm.
which is something like spooked but intrigued.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that spooked but intrigued also a thought? Because I'm not sure if you're using, when you say intellectualizing, I'm not sure if that means there's a separate thought or, because we're saying thought feeling, we're saying intellectualizing.
Yeah.
So I just want to understand those distinctions.
So when I say intellectualizing a thought feeling, it's when I start to actually hear my voice in my mind talking.
Which part is that? The
The
intellectualizing?
intellectual side.
Okay.
Because that voice is trying to narrate what it is that is occurring inside of me. It's
Okay.
trying to give me the script of what I'm feeling and thinking, like the manual or whatever. I mean, that's very metaphorical. It's not actually, I don't actually see myself giving myself the manual, but it is my way of dealing with what's happening inside by
Okay.
putting words to it, and then my voice comes out, and it's in looking at the thoughts and the feelings, I realize my voice is just the echo of the thought and feeling.
Okay.
That I created that somewhere in my life to deal with the processes of what I'm feeling and thinking.
So at the moment of this beep,
Yes.
this
Mhm.
moment right here,
Yes.
are there words involved?
I would say yes. I would say yes.
And what exactly are those words?
The intrigued, the word intrigued was very prominent, and I wrote it down and I circled it. So in the process of the beep, with all that happening, the thoughts, the feelings, the intellectualizing, the questioning, the relaxation, the feeling of that, the word of intrigued was surrounding that beep. Not exactly on the beep, I wouldn't say that. I would say, actually, I don't know.
Well,
What
that's a good
exact
answer as
word
far as
I
we're
was
concerned.
on in the beep. I wasn't really focused on the exact word, but I was in that mishmash of
Mhm.
thought, feeling, intellectualizing, relaxing, all that.
So I think we've ground this beep about as far as we can grind it. And, what I would like to point out is how we have proceeded a little bit about this. So we started out, if I'm, and this is my impression, and if you've got a different impression, then you
Sure.
should say so. But we started out with a 4-layered kind of a deal, of which the fourth and least prominent layer was something about a thought or a feeling about what it would be like to be in the, to have a paranormal experience,
Yes.
or something like that.
Mhm.
15 minutes later, we're saying that fourth part had words to it, which didn't all have words at the beginning. At the outset of this experience, there was some kind of a thought or a feeling about what it would be like
Well, she did say that the words are echoing that
Yeah.
thought feeling.
at the outset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's like when you yell at in the middle of, okay, this is very metaphorical. I don't know if this will help, but like imagine if you are stuck in a canyon and you yell and you hear your echo. Like that echo to me is my inner dialogue.
Sure.
That is just reflecting the feelings and the thoughts that are occurring in that exact moment. And it seems like there should be like a linear process to that, but I feel like it is all happening on top of each other. Mhm.
What I would like us to do
Okay.
is to be skeptical in the most positive sense of that word about your experience.
Okay.
In the same way as we talked about what wispy was about. That
Yeah.
that's a word that we've used, and we're trying to figure out what that was. And so I guess, continuing what my understanding of what we've been doing here is that the last quarter of what we have been talking about, the last 5 minutes of this 20-minute conversation or whatever, has been about a theoretical process where it starts as a feeling and it ends, and then I put a thought to it, and then I layer that on with that kind of theoretical self-understanding.
Yes.
I would like us to what we call bracket, which
Okay.
means that may be true and it may not be true. Let's set those self theories aside,
Okay.
which is not to deny them, but it's to put ourselves into a mode of discovery about them.
Okay.
If it's true, if those things are true, the best way to find out that they're true is to set them aside and then do some exploration, and it'll turn out, well, yeah, that's what I've been saying all the way along.
Yeah.
But to do that, we have to open ourselves to other kinds of possibilities as well. That's what bracketing means.
Got it. Hear you. So we have bracketed.
It is done.
Well, I don't think we have bracketing is a skill, and
Okay.
like shooting baskets is a skill, and you gotta practice it. So
Yes.
I think we have been practicing
How to bracket.
how to bracket, which is the same thing about trying to separate out. You know, we talked about the drive. The conversation we had about driving was a bracketing thing too. We started, well, there was a theory, a self theory. Well, if I'm driving, I must have experience, and it must be somehow in the foreground of my experience. Well, maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Let's bracket that, which means that then when we have a driving experience, well, we're gonna, in the future, if we happen to have a beep while we're driving, then you're gonna be more willing or more able or more skillful or whatever to say, well, was I really paying attention to the driving? In which case, fine, or was I really into my own inner visual creation or whatever, in which case that's fine too. And so we have bracketed the experience of driving, and all of what we're trying to do here basically is all the aspects of this experience. We now, this is our third sampling day. We have another crack at it. We're somewhat more skilled at it than we were before. We're practicing the efforts at it, and that's the way this process is. So I want to make sure that you don't hear what I'm saying as a criticism of Lena, which it's not. It's we are trying to sensitize ourselves to the degree that sensitization is warranted or something like that. I'm trying to hear what you're saying accurately. You're trying to tell us what we're trying to say accurately. Malika's doing the same kind of a thing. She's trying to understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to understand what she's saying. And as a way of providing a high fidelity description of your experience.
I think I understand.
On to beep 3?
Yeah.
Beep 3. What time is it?
10:30.
Oh, we're good on time.
Yeah.
Okay, so beep 3, it came relatively close to beep 2, so I was still watching Paranormal Activity, or the Paranormal Experience caught on camera. And at the moment of the beep, the word attached was said on TV. And it was in reference to how ghosts can attach themselves to locations and people. And as that beep happened, I was simultaneously thinking about my brother, who wasn't feeling well, as discussed in beep 1, and experiencing a visualization of what he's possibly doing. As I'm also thinking about ghosts attaching itself to locations and people.
So is that 2 or 3 things going on at the same time?
So I would say 2. So I'm experiencing the thought of visualizing what my brother is doing and if he's feeling better. So I guess 2 there, 2 in relation to my brother, and then 1 in relation to what I am hearing on the TV and how I am processing that information.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is one of those more prominent than the other?
It was my brother more prominent. My brother was more prominent. The second he popped in, he became more prominent. Yeah.
And so at the moment of the beat, the contemplation of my brother is more prominent than the TV stuff?
Mhm.
60-40 more, or 90-10 more, or 99-1 more, or 80-20?
I would say 70-30.
So
Yeah.
pretty much more
Yeah.
prominent, but the TV is not gone.
Yes, it's not gone. It's background in relation to my brother, but foreground in relation to the other parts of my reality.
Okay.
Mhm.
So about your brother, which is the 70 portion of this
Yes.
thing,
Mhm.
I understood you to be saying that you were somehow visualizing what your brother was doing.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mhm.
And by visualizing, do you mean I'm seeing something in my imagination?
I am in my imagination again, visualizing him wrapped up in a blanket, being sick on a couch.
So what exactly do you see?
I see him wrapped in a red blanket.
Head to toe?
Yeah, well, like neck down, and his head's popping out.
I
And
mean, you see the whole length of the blanket, 6 feet,
Yeah.
or 6 feet worth of blanket or whatever?
I am seeing his, whole length of his body represented in my mind
Okay.
as wrapped in a blanket on the couch. And
His cou-
visualizing him sick.
Okay, his couch?
It's my mom's couch.
Okay.
Yes, at my mom's house.
And is his head going to the right or to the left or away from
He's
you or?
upward, like just like
So he's
this.
sitting on a couch, not
Yeah.
laying on a couch?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
That's
okay.
correct.
And the blanket is red, did you say that?
Red velvety blanket.
Red velvet blanket.
Mhm.
And is this seeing in color? So you see
Yeah,
the red?
I'm seeing the color of the red. I'm seeing the color, all the colors that are associated with my mom's living room. So I'm visualizing her layout, the couch, tables, chairs, all of that.
So I see the whole living room.
Yeah.
Equally clearly, or is the brother more clearly?
I would say pretty clearly, but my brother most defined.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is this, is there motion involved in it?
This is very still.
And still like I'm seeing a still frame, or still
Mhm.
like the guy's just sitting there and I'm seeing a movie of it, but he's not moving?
Yes, more of a still frame that I just captured a picture almost.
Okay. And does that picture have a border to it, or,
No borders.
so it's like I've got a view into the living room and he's there, and that's it?
Yeah, it's like I'm just peeking in God's eye, kind of real quick looking, and took a quick little picture, and then I came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does this seem like a realistic seeing to
Mhm.
you? So there's nothing wispy about this? This
No.
is a,
Very solid, as if I had just walked in the room and then walked out.
so is there anything about this experience which is different from actually seeing it? Obviously, it's an imaginary scene, and you don't know what's
Yeah.
going on,
Mm.
but does it seem like a real?
Mhm. Seems real.
Obviously, you know it's not a real scene, but.
Right, but it appears
but
real.
visually it-
Visually, yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like my mind checked on him, and I saw this visual of him covered up on the couch, and then it instigated this, oh, I should check on him, I should text him. Make sure he's okay, make sure he doesn't need anything, because he's alone.
And is that present to you at the moment of the beep, or is that implied in the seeing?
Implied in the scene. Yeah. So like the beep occurred as after I'm already curious of my brother's well-being and seeing the visualization. And the visualization is there at the beep. It had already occurred to me to wonder about, or to check on his well-being, and at the same time the beep happened, the background TV said attached. So at attached, I'm seeing this visualization of my brother bundled up on the couch, sitting as I described, and I've already started to question his well-being.
So in our scheme here,
Yes.
I'm watching TV, I've been for a while.
Yep, yep.
I start to wonder about my brother.
Yes,
The wondering about my brother spawns this image,
yes,
apparently.
yep.
And the,
And then beep,
and the beep happens while
Yep.
I'm seeing that.
yes.
I'm
and-
no longer thinking, well, I should check on my brother because I'm embodying that or
Right, and in that
visualizing
beep, I am having this visualization and then at the same time having some focus on the TV.
Okay.
So the wondering about if he's okay, that has passed. That spawned the image, but it's out
Yeah.
here before the beep.
It's almost like the wondering of him simultaneously brought about the feeling of his well-being. And then the second the beep occurred, I'm still in this visualization of seeing the image of him at home in
Mhm.
that way, like constructing what I believe to be happening in the moment.
Okay.
And then also too having this background focus, somewhat background focus on the TV. Yeah.
Okay, so sorry to keep badgering this point,
It's okay.
but so the image is sort of your illustration of wondering if he's okay,
Yeah.
but there's no like separate thought of wondering if he's okay at this moment. That's all caught
At
up in the
moment,
image.
Yeah, it's all caught up inside the image. Yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you described the colors, the red velvet and whatever.
Mhm.
Are you particularly interested in the colors, or are you particularly interested in your brother? And the room happens to be whatever color it is, and the blanket happens to be red.
I'm more so interested in my brother's well-being. I think that, and this is the theory, we could bracket this, that I'm only seeing these specific colors, like the red blanket. Like I happen to know that there is a red blanket like that in my mom's house. And I'm just assuming that's
Sure.
what he's doing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's good. So, but that isn't exactly the question I was asking. So the question that I was asking was, are you particularly interested in the red of the blanket? And I take it the answer to that is no. This is a
Interested in
blanket that
it.
happens to be red,
Yeah.
and that's it as far as the color is
Yeah.
concerned.
It's as if, okay, so the blanket is the background of, part of the background in the visual representation. I created in my mind a visual representation exactly how I would think it would be in real life.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Got it.
all right. So-
And then at the same time, I'm processing the TV,
Yes, yeah, I'm processing what's happening in the TV. Mhm.
and at the moment of the beep, the word is goats attach themselves to locations and people or something like that,
Yes.
and the beep happens at attached.
Yes. Mhm.
And are you particularly singling out the word attached, or is it that that's what's happening on TV and the beep happens right to be there? And if the beep had come a microsecond later, then it would have been on goats or...
It was, I perceived the beep to happen on attached. The beep, beep, or as I heard the beep, I had just seconds, okay, how did it be, before heard attached. Or maybe it was like right on top of each other. Okay, now I'm starting to kind of forget a little bit. I believe the beep happened right on attached. Yeah, that's what I wrote down, so.
An important distinction, which I don't
Yeah.
think we've explicitly made, is the
Yeah.
difference between experience and the real world. So there is a real beep and there's real sound coming out of the TV and whatever, and there's some correspondence between those two. We don't care about that.
Mm.
So that's the physical world. This is not a study about the physical world. So the experiential question is, do you hear, in your experience, do you hear the word attached, or do you hear the sentence, or the goats attach themselves to people and
I hear the
places?
sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the beep happens at the attached portion of that sentence?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Because people do it different ways. Some people
Right.
hear one word at a time. I hear this
Oh.
word, and then I hear this word, and then I hear this word, and then I hear this word.
I
That's not
gather
apparent.
all of the words together, and that's how I translate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you particularly interested in the words of this TV show, or are you interested in being carried along by the TV show, which happens to include words?
Mm.
And so I'm seeing what's happening on the TV at the same time as I'm hearing what is being said on the TV, and the beep happens, and it's easier to say the beep happens in this verbal stream than in the visual stream, which is sort of hard to put into words, but
I'm experiencing not the words, I'm experiencing the meaning of the words, not the words themselves. Like, I'm not just saying attached and thinking that is a word. I'm experiencing the meaning of attached. What does it mean to be attached? And then what is a ghost? What does it mean to be a ghost? And I'm having a meaningful experience with the words as it's being played out.
So is
One-
that to say I'm comprehending?
Yeah.
this?
Comprehending it in a meaningful way, like I'm adding meaning to the words, not just comprehending it by computing that each word put together now creates this scenario. Like I'm seeing how the words individually, I'm not seeing them individually because I'm gathering them all together, but how the words together create a meaningful experience, or a meaningful understanding in myself. So when I look at the word attached, or if I look at the word ghost, I'm not seeing just that one word as itself and understanding the definition, but I'm understanding the meaning of what that word is together with the other words.
so are you seeing the word attached, or are you hearing?
Hearing.
Okay.
I'm not visualizing words or anything like that.
Okay. And so this is another bracketing exercise here.
Okay.
So I'm accepting that in some way your brain, your body, where your bag of neurons, whatever, is
I like that.
is processing the meaning of this sentence.
Mm-hmm.
The question is whether the degree to which you experience that. So the question is, am I experiencing the narrator saying goats attach themselves to location and people, or am I somehow experiencing goats and then I have to
Is it goats or ghosts?
Ghosts.
Oh, it's
Oh,
ghosts?
okay. I've been getting so
Ghosts.
confused. I'm like, what am I hearing? Okay.
It's
So
ghosts.
subtle. Ghosts, like spooky guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's that changes.
Well, goats are spooky. too.
I guess they
In
can
some-
be, yeah.
I was
depending on how you-
thinking of crop circles. And
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Then I was like, oh, I must have misheard we're talking about
Ghosts,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
That's-
Sorry, that was just gonna drive
That's
me
good.
nuts if I didn't
I'm
clarify
glad
that.
you had glad
Got
about
it,
that.
got it.
But the
Okay.
Right.
the overall sense of
Yes.
it is still the same as far as I'm
Yes.
concerned.
Yeah.
So does my experience, in my experience,
Okay.
do I have to hear ghosts and then process it and get the meaning of ghosts, and then hear attached and then process that and go get the meaning of that, and in my experience?
No.
Or is it, I'm hearing this narration and through my verbal processor, which is skilled in whatever over my life,
Mhm.
I'm getting the meaning of it?
I'm getting the meaning of it through the whole,
Yeah.
whole of the sentence.
So
Yeah.
I'm hearing the sentence and I'm seeing what's happening on the screen and I'm processing those in a skillful kind of way,
Mhm.
which is not discreetly, I gotta go get this meaning and I gotta go get this
Yeah.
meaning. Okay.
Yeah, that's the.
And are you more interested in the verbal stream of what's coming out of the TV or of the visual stream, or is that these are things that are not really separable, both of them are happening at the same time?
I would say the more prominent for me is the visual stream, or I'm sorry, the verbal stream. As I'm hearing what is being discussed, I am creating kind of my own visual sense of what I'm hearing. At the same time as I'm watching it, like I am hearing the words as a whole. I'm experiencing the visual on the TV screen, but I'm also having my own visualization as well. I am visualizing as I'm hearing these words.
Visualizing.
My own interpretation of what that whole sentence would mean, how that whole sentence comes together. So, ghosts attach to people and places. It's like a flash, like not even a full thing, like how my brother, that was a full thing. Like maybe like a little flash layer, like you just kind of, okay, this is very metaphorical, so I'm gonna try to be more literal, but in the process of visualizing my brother, I have this very strong visualization of him in what I'm believing to be his real moment,
Mhm.
even though it's imagined. And I at the same simultaneous moment as I'm experiencing the words on the TV, I am also getting my own visual representation of those words. So I'll have a quick flash of a creepy house, creepy haunted house, and that's a ghost being attached to a location with, you know, another quick flash of a creepy old house and a creepy person walking through, and now that ghost is attached to that person and that house. So it's like quick flashes of visual representations as I'm hearing the words.
So now I'm going to make a sort of a meta observation similar to what I made in the last, and that is that these quick flashes of visualizations are coming out sort of 10 minutes into our discussion of this beep.
Mm-hmm.
And so this process is aimed at what happened at the moment of the beep, which was yesterday, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is whether these flashes were present yesterday or whether we're manufacturing them in this room today as we talk about them. And I would like us to bracket
that.
this as well.
Okay.
I don't have a preference as to whether you do, when you hear words, have little flashes of visualization or not.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that the visual flashes come up relatively late in this conversation, which leads me to wonder, well, was that really happening then, or now that we've beat this experience to death, we've sort of creating these flashes? And this again is not a criticism of Lena in the slightest. This is, we are trying to understand something which is private and evanescent and whatever, and
I hear that. So that I understand. Yeah, it's hard for me to, and I can see how maybe that it can be confusing on your end when we do discuss things, and then I open up that moment again now, and there is a part of me when I don't write certain things down where I'm reconstructing it a little bit so I can pull from it a little better. So maybe, in a sense, that is occurring.
The whole thing is a bracketing deal.
Yes.
And the whole thing is, let's see whether we can get better skilled,
Yes.
which is why we have to do this over multiple days. So this is now our third crack at it.
Right.
Now we've profited from these conversations, and maybe the next time we do this, it'll be easier for you to keep track, and then you'll be able to say, well, you know, those word pictures that I thought were there, they really were there, and I'm going to be able to tell you about them. Or you're going to say, you know, those word pictures they weren't here in this one, they probably weren't there in that one as well.
Right.
Either one of those things is okay.
Well, kind of like how we discovered with the wispy light thing, like that seems to be a real thing for me.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And the first time around, the wispy thing, well, we had really no way of knowing.
Yeah.
And it seems like now it probably is, but not what we discovered today is not all the time, because you have a non-wispy inner seeing of your brother. And so this is how we are developing the skill to be talking about wispiness of your inner experience. And that's great as far as I'm concerned. This is perfect. This is the way it is.
Cool.
So I'm guessing you have more beeps, but I think we
Yeah, I
probably
think
should
we
stop.
should call
it.
We do have somebody at 11
We have
too.
somebody coming
Perfect.
soon,
Yep.
and you're doing great.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm going to turn off the videos here.